Lou Dort was just snubbed from an all-defensive team, and it has fans wondering and just straight up confused how he didn't make first or second team, along with some players that have spoken out about how they believe he should have been on one of those teams. What up? It's Bryson Akins here with another Thunder Digest video for you guys today. Just want to mention real quick, 12% of you guys coming back and watching the channel are subscribed. The other 87.6% of you guys, you're coming back, but you're not subscribed to the channel yet. And so, like I've mentioned in multiple videos before, if you guys enjoy the content and you find yourself coming back, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. And now we can go ahead and get into the video as Lou Dort, who many players have started to speak out about him on his defensive capabilities and what he does on that side of the ball, and how he really somehow didn't make an all defensive team this year, and has a lot of players just straight up confused. As you can see right here, Anthony Edwards, who's one of the young rising stars in this league, who's supposed to be one of these players that can potentially be the face of the NBA, said, I thought he should have been on one of the defensive teams for sure. He was also asked if Dort's defense on Luka Doncic would be a blueprint for the Wolves, and he said, for sure. So as you can see there are players who are speaking out about how Lou Dort isn't an all-defensive team player. It just doesn't really make sense when you look at what he's doing in the playoffs and in the regular season. It has you thinking, how did he not make a single one of these teams? You even look at the voting list here. He received only, if my math's right here, 28 votes. He only received 28 out of the 99 votes. He had 34 total points, and I think he just barely missed out on it. Not by much. I want to say 20 points. But only 6 first-team place votes, which I didn't think he was going to get first-team all-defense because of his stats. Because of his, steal numbers. He wasn't going to be there. But when you look at his defensive rating, you could have a point there for him for being an all-defensive second-team player. And I'm glad now that it's out as well who was all voted for certain players as well. As from this list right here, you can see these are the voters who had Lou Dort on either of their all-defensive teams. And there are some decent names on here. There are some decent names that had Lou Dort on their all-defensive teams. David Aldridge. And then another one that kind of really sticks out to me, Stan Van Gundy. And then Brian Windhorst, who is this kind of guru of basketball when you think about it. I don't want to go back to his moment where he kind of brought up this is where he's getting traded. This is where he's moving. That whole moment that he had there. But he is a great, great basketball mind. And when you have someone like the likes of him voting for Lou Dort on an all-defensive team, then not other people such as Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, Shaquille O'Neal, those guys, it just shows you what's kind of, inhibiting him from being on one of those teams is the fact that he's not really getting national media attention. He's not getting that coverage. And when you look at all those voters, I'll bring the list up real quick again. These are guys that kind of have to look on a daily basis of every single player and every single team in the league. It's not these guys that are going to be focusing on whoever was the nationally televised game last night, as OKC didn't even have that many. And I think that's kind of what's limiting him from all these media people out there, these big-time media guys on ESPN, TNT, all those guys, is just the fact that he's not on national television as much as a Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, all those people. He doesn't have as much hype around his name. He's not as big of a named guy as some of those other players that you see. Even Derek White, who's not really, I would say him and Lou Dort are on the same level, but he gets more attention because he plays for a big market team such as Boston. And so he's going to be on national television more often than Lou Dort, who's on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he had a great year. He had a great year when you look at the stats. Here are his stats from year in and year out here. 2023 to 2024. And now you're going to see that little arrow there. The other two stats that are not on the table there that you can't see is it's my bad. I'm getting distracted here. It's games played and games started. It's the only things that aren't showing up there. But his minutes per game is at 28.4. He had 72 steals this year. zero point 0.9 per game, 1.5 per 48 minutes, and then his blocks were 47.6 per game, then 1 per 48 minutes. When you look at it to the steal to personal foul ratio as well, 0.32, 0.21 for blocks. His percentages are high up there as well. His block percentage was 40%. His steal percentage, if I'm reading the right one here, 30%. So you can kind of see there, he's having a decent year. It's just not showing up on the stats because he's guarding the other team's best player. He's not going in for steals every single time. He's playing solid defense, and he's just trying to affect a shot. That's all he's trying to do. He's trying to get a hand in the face and make it tough for the other guy to actually get a bucket on him. He's not going for these steals and blocks that you'll see a ton of players do, and then they get beat, such as Rudy Gobert, who goes up for blocks every single time, but sometimes, or I say sometimes, half the time, you'll see him get beat and then get put on the other player's highlight the next time out. Lou Dort, he's just trying to keep you in front and not let you get an easy bucket at all. That's what he's doing, and I feel like that's one of the reasons he's not being on one of those all defensive teams is because the stats don't show up there. Not even averaging a steal per game as a guard, it does limit you. It does. And then also something to take into consideration is Oklahoma City being one of the top defensive teams on the regular season. Because that's what they vote on. They don't vote on the postseason. If you guys want to talk about that, you guys might bring up the postseason, how, he got cooked in Game 6 against Luka. You can also see he limited Luka to his worst playoff series this year. But when you look at the regular season here, Oklahoma City Thunder, 110 defensive rating, 4th in the league. They average 33.2 defensive rebounds per game. That's not great at all. That just goes into one of our weaknesses as well. Steals per game, 8.5. We actually led the league in steals per game. 6.6 blocks. I believe we were 2nd or 3rd in the league with blocks per game. And then you look at all these other stats here. 14.8 opponents' points off of turnovers. 15.3 opponents' points second chance. And so, as you can see there, we're playing well. We have a great defensive team, and Lou Dort's the backbone of it all. He is, because of just how he plays. He's aggressive. He has this 1990s style of defense that he kind of brings to the floor. Like I've mentioned before, he's not going for blocks every single time. He's not going to go for a steal every single time. He kind of sits back and waits for the moment and makes the, offensive player just force a steal to happen by either trying to do a dribble move and it goes off his leg. He'll get the steal that way. Or he'll notice they're just slacking off and then he'll get a steal that way. He just plays good, hard, physical defense and keeps the offensive player in front of him and limits any opportunity that can go his way. And I think that's really the reason, one of two reasons why he didn't make that all-defensive team is A, he doesn't really have the stats to back it up. He doesn't. He doesn't have 2 steals a game like a lot of these guys have. Then secondly, he's not being covered by the national media. He's not. Playing for the Thunder, you're just not going to get that attention that other guys such as Jason Tatum, Victor Wembanyama, who even though he plays for San Antonio, it's just how much hype he's had around him. It's just all these guys that have had all this talk around them is part of the reason that they kind of got selected to that team, and some of them got selected over him. That's all I've got to say about that is if Derek White made an all-defensive team, I believe Lou Dort should have made one as well, and I think he was snubbed from it. I think he was. He should have been second team. I don't think he was first team by any means, but I do think he should have been second team, and that's why I believe he was snubbed. And you can also see it from guys like Brian Windhurst, David Aldridge, and Stan Van Gundy, seeing that Lou Dort is actually this kind of player, this one-of-kind defensive players that we have in the league right now. And I think next year will be the year he's on an all-defensive team and in Defensive Player of the Year talks. But that's all I got for this video. Let me know in the comments if you guys kind of agree with this, if you think next year he will be in the Defensive Player of the Year runnings. I know that's kind of a crazy statement by me at the end there. Then also let me know if you think he should have been first team or second team or no team at all for all defensive team this year. Anyways, we'll see you guys in the next video.